where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market, that is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some and or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today, we have the crypto majors up on a green day with Sol outperforming. Alt layer 1 Sui reaches 1/4 of Sol's valuation, up 17% on the week, 115% in the last month. And the AI meme coin GOAT, shared and funded by Mark Andreessen, surges to a $110 million market cap, up 100% in 24 hours. Things are heating up for sure. And we've also got the latest on price action in crypto and NFTs, and discussion on meme coin activity as class warfare, and a deep dive on the state of L2s on Ethereum. So stay tuned for that. Today we have Sammy and Bread in the co-host seats. We're ready to get into it. But before we do that, friends, just a reminder, of course, that nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is so risky. Even if it feels at the moment that it's just going up, we do not know anything for sure. So please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Sammy, it's Monday. It's the 14th of October. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm good. Yeah, back from the conference, 2-day conference in London, which was good to meet a few familiar faces. So we hadn't actually met before as well. So shout out to Rui, Danilo, who I believe they actually read my newsletter, but also on the show as well. So good to put some names to faces, faces to names.
Profile pictures to faces. Is that what you mean?
That's the one. Yeah. And also, we got a shout out, didn't we, in this book?
Oh yeah. Put it a bit closer to the camera. Let's see. For the people who are watching in, this book is called Getting Started with Web3 and NFTs. It is a real book, like a real physical book. Many people may not be familiar with those anymore. Is it what describe this material to us, Sam? This is like I
heard they smell great.
How does it smell?
It smells new. Well, actually, to be fair, it's been in my bag for a little while, so it doesn't smell as great. But yeah, it's done by like a reputable IT publisher. And it has a shout out to the leaders of the space, where you'll see like a number of familiar faces. It's like there's quite a few, but like I think it's just
okay. We're struggling there. This is great camera work from Sammy. But yeah, we got a little shout out. The Modern Market crew were named individually in a reputable book. Thanks for the adjective, Sam, in case people were wondering and may have thought it would have been not so reputable, but it's a professional book. Shout out to us for being included, and thanks for bringing that. I think we got some hard copies for the rest of the team. Excited about that. Maybe a final thing with you, Sam. We're talking about the call sheet being a guide for us. You know, when we're prepping the show, I spend a couple of hours every day prepping what's going on. You seem to have taken it as a call to action sheet. You're reading the news and then taking action as a consequence. Is that fair?
Well, I mean, I had heard of GOAT before, and I followed the terminal of truth, but I think digging deep into that for my section of this to talk about, I was like, you know what, I've got to buy this. So yeah, I do have some exposure. That is full disclosure.
Full disclosure.
When we do that section, do you have the ability to like talk about the BTC Sol stuff, like the lore there? Because wasn't it supposed to start on BTC?
Well, so it was a grant, but we can touch on it. So it's a 50K grant from Mark.
I want to know that, because I think that's a big thing.
We've got the history coming up. You want to know the history of GOAT? Sammy's got it for us coming a little bit later today. But Bread, before we get to the headline stuff, how are you doing? How's your travels? Are you well placed for this electric activity in the market?
Well placed, loving it. Stress levels have subsided a little bit. We had some visa issues that have now subsided. We're gonna go back to where we were planning on going, which is Vietnam. A little excited about that. Everyone keeps talking very highly about it. We're in Cambodia now. Strong Wi-Fi, that's good. But yeah, watching the market, still getting in my nerd fights and just enjoying it up.
Sounds great. Strong Wi-Fi being the best of all the things that you just said. From my perspective.
You have no idea how frustrating it was last week trying to do this stuff and then having that, because it's so inconsistent, right? You're moving hotels, whatever, every week or so.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm happy to be strong here.
I am happy that you have strong Wi-Fi as well now too. Look, let's get into it. We've got all kinds of interesting discussions to have today. As always, we've got the price action on crypto, the NFTs, and the main headlines discussion coming up, along with some interesting deep dives from Bread and Sammy too. So let's get into it, starting with the price action coming to you right now. I'm going to share it on screen. Remember, we are live on X video and YouTube as well. Bitcoin is up 3% now, 64.7K. Love to see that. ETH is also up almost 3% at 2.5K. Solana is up almost 4% to $152, slightly outperforming the other majors at the moment. On the meme side of things, we have Doge up just a couple of percent, Pepe up 7%, WIF up 3%, Popcat down 7%, Mog up 10%. First time in a while, maybe just starting to see different different coins behaving in very different ways. Bonk is up 3%. There's no real rhyme or reason here from what I can tell. I think the I was gonna say meme coins, the Murad coins might be touched, but there's no real correlation really. So Mog is, I believe, one of them that's up 10%. SPX is down 14% though. So things are up, things are down, mostly up, I'd say, from in the major memes. But there is a bit of a downturn too. Getting into the headlines themselves, as I said, we've got majors are up. Alt Layer 1 Sui reaches 1/4 of Sol's valuation. Definitely want to hear Brett dive into that a little bit later. It's up 17% on the week and 115% in the last month. Obviously, a lot of people's attention has been taken by memes. There is still the Alt Layer 1 trade out there, should you be interested. Next, AI meme coin GOAT, shared and funded by Mark Andreessen, surges to $110 million in market cap. It's up 100% in 24 hours. We've got a bigger deep dive there if you want to know where this coin has come from. Mark Andreessen, obviously the founder of Andreessen Horowitz, huge American VC, got a huge fund, also dedicated to crypto and AI. We've got the history. Sam's going to break that down in just a little bit. Some notable sales from around the space. CryptoPunk Nerd Glasses selling for 29 ETH. Miladies are moving as well. We'll touch on those in a second. Migoko hat selling for 15 ETH, and the Remilio red niqab selling for 5.77 ETH are the notable sales from around the space. Getting into some of the other collections, interestingly, Pudgy Penguins are down 5%, whereas Pudgy Puppets are up 10%. So even in the NFT collection side, you're seeing majors maybe leak a little bit as the meme NFTs are rising. You've also got Miladies up a bunch to, is this right? 4.6 ETH floor? 4.6. Gosh, it's already back to 4.6. That's up almost 50% in a week. I think that's got something to do with the cult token, which has either come out or is about to come out. Bored Apes are pretty strong at 10.9 ETH. Mutant Apes are 1.84. Lil Pudgies at 0.8. Sproto Ladies at 0.1. Just seeing if there's any other notable ones. Azuki's still pretty solid at 5. So a lot of the majors being solid. Pudgy Penguins have obviously leaked a little bit, but and the meme NFTs are moving. Those are the headlines. That is the price action from around the space. Sam, what are you noticing here? What are you liking? What are you finding interesting from either the NFT market or the broader crypto market?
We're probably just staying on that same theme. I think if you go back to the Mintify heat map, you'll see Smalls. Now, Smalls are Dark Farms collection, which, if you remember, probably back, was it June? I think Bohm launched.
Yes.
And that speed ran to about a 2 billion market cap Binance listing within about 3 days. And this is the NFT collection, and that's done almost a 3x in the past 24 hours. So I own one, and I like, that's what the reason why I got into Bohm for the pre-sales, because I support Dark Farms. I like it. It's been around a while. For those of you that like shit posting, you're probably familiar with Turvo. He had a Dark Farms small PFP for a period of time as well. So yeah, and there's just a lot of it's a strong community. So yeah, it's just done a decent return.
Any reason why this has particularly moved, do you think, or is this just part of the pumping of kind of the more cultural side of NFTs?
I think it's probably tied to the cultural side. And if you look at, I think Whale did a post this morning around looking at market cap of NFTs by segment. Memes has increased quite significantly, and you'll see that with across the board. Obviously, Murad's memes, the NFT tokens that are linked to those fungible tokens as well. But small does fit into that category. But I do like to think that it's probably a little bit more than that, because it is kind of tied to Dark Farms as well. He's a reputable artist in the space. I do kind of liken
a move like that isn't like, aren't they teasing a layer 2 or some shit for Bohm specifically? I have to imagine like there has to be a leak or a tease of something like a move with 200 something % in 24 hours.
Yeah, so I had some guys DMing me saying it's not just linked to the memes. There are some other stuff in the pipeline. They didn't really allude to what it is, but I mean, it could be infra that they're building out. I mean, they've got Binance owns a shit ton of the token because when that listed, that all got kind of accumulated and market made on that platform. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what this leak is and what information is going to come to market.
Pretty sure Sam just told us he's in the cabal.
The Binance cabal, not a bad cabal to be in. Okay, I've just seen Justefano. Thanks for that update, Sammy. That's pretty interesting activity as well. Justefano in the comments said Cult is pumping on pre-markets. I'm just going to try and find that chart and see what's going on because my ladies have absolutely ripped in the last 7 days to bring you up to speed there. Brad, in the meantime, anything particularly catching your attention on the NFT side or anywhere else? I know we're going to get into
Honestly,
a big discussion later on L2s, but
yeah, I want to push something back to a question for you guys is like you discussing those NFT price movements. I was like, well, like, are you going to even get out of bed for 5, 10%, 20% overnight on NFTs? Like, why would you give a shit? And then it got me thinking, right, there's two classes of people in this space that understand like the social stuff, who quite frankly don't understand anything when it comes to actual blockchain technology, right? They're just in it for the memes and whatever, which is fine. And then there's the technical people, whatever. And but anyway, that first class might skew towards the socially relevant assets, which is NFTs, which is meme coins, which is whatever. And then I was like, well, maybe NFT price action is appealing to longer term social leaning participants in this ecosystem. Does that sound like right or even valid to either of you guys? Like that there would be someone that would like NFTs moving slower, having, you know, steady movements in either direction is appealing as a thing, as opposed to like going after eigenlayer and trying to wrap your head around that if that's just like not something you can do.
I actually said this a lot, maybe 6 months or so ago, where I thought at a certain point in time, I mean, maybe this is a left curve, right curve situation, but at a certain point in time, I think NFTs were very, very simple to trade. It was just like, see a picture that you like, buy the picture that you like. And that was all there really was to it. And then everything kind of went up, especially because there wasn't much supply. Um, and you know, there is an argument that ultimately, even with memes, just like, look, if something makes you laugh, just buy it. If you like the animal, just buy it. And it like there's some simplicity to it. But if you actually think about what NFT trading has become and all the infra that got built around it, there's like, you know, you can now long and short NFTs, for example, on Wasabi or other platforms. You have this whole lending ecosystem with people like Gondi building out peer-to-peer loans, and you've got Blend operating all the time and people piling in all this capital as liquidity providers on Blend. And then as soon as they disappear, the market starts tanking. So it's like you've got to be far more astute when you are dealing in that market. So I do think it became slightly more complicated. It's not, I don't think it's as straightforward as it was before, especially not on ETH for the major stuff, because you've got more data to look at. Nevertheless, I still think, yeah, buying the picture, there's something more straightforward about it. Is that what you were kind of alluding to, Brad? What's your reflection?
No, more so just around the price action of the asset class. Right? Like the price action of NFTs is slower, and that is an appealing thing for someone that can ingest social leaning assets, which again would be NFTs or memes. Right? Memes, if you go to sleep on it, fucking might be gone the next day. With, you know, anything that hasn't reached escape velocity. So it was just a question of like, are NFTs appealing because they are slower moving and still culturally like socially
Brad, what I'm hearing
determined
you say, are you saying that NFTs are a risk off asset?
within the social, yeah, within the social spectrum? I think so.
Love it. Maybe the case. Sam, what did you ever do you have a thought on that? Are they like more sticky in that respect?
I think there's probably a number of participants that are kind of trading across both, and I would probably say there's a strong cultural pull for NFT specifically and memes as well. I do think that that is the case, but I also think if you look at when you touched on the infra that's being built out, I do think NFTs can represent a real asset, and that is more the DeFi side. So you're probably going to have speculators and traders and people who are like institutions coming in and using that infra for that. Even though it's NFTs, it might not necessarily be PFPs that they're trading, but there will be assets that are brought onto these platforms eventually that are kind of appealing more to the DeFi side, I think.
Okay. Interesting stuff. Glad we had that conversation. We want to move the conversation into the two discussion points for today. We're going to get into Bread's deep dive in just a little bit. Before we get there, obviously memes, we're just touching on memes and how they related to NFTs and how they're different and similar. But also this idea that I saw shared, which was an interesting idea. I don't think I've necessarily seen it before, from Ryan Watkins, who is an analyst and fund manager, I think, who I'm increasingly keeping an eye on. He says meme coin mania is just class warfare in cyberspace. And this was a quote tweet from a previous tweet he had said, which was, after years of wealth extraction by the founder and VC class, retail investors have seized the memes of production, and the industry now crackles with the anarchic energy of a rising rebellion. In the chaos, many see nihilism, but the few discerning see signs of maturation. The emperor has no clothes. It's time to build real products. Want to throw to Bread straight away on this. What do you think about this concept, Bread? Is, we've spoken a lot about financial nihilism and how it seems to be a downward spiral. The lower and lower you go when people seem to give up trying to assess what actually has real value. Do you think there's any truth to this? Do you think we are spiraling down? How does memes play into this, and how does it compare with people going out there trying to build real products at the same time in crypto?
For context, Ryan, so you said you've been paying attention to him. He had a big thread recently talking about that fat app thesis, flipping the fat protocol thesis, right? Applications earning revenue relative to the actual fees that are accrued at the L1 levels and chain levels just broadly. So this kind of is an extension of that, just saying that, like, yes, as applications are taking over fees, and then I think it's a pretty good representation or reflection on what the meme landscape is. I mean, I don't participate too heavily, so like, and a lot of people do look at it and just see like, oh, this is financial nihilism and it's going crazy because everyone thinks nothing has value. Therefore, why does anything have value? Let's just have fun. I don't know. I don't think he really passed any judgment there, other than just to say that like it. Like I don't think it leads to maturation of space, or like is saying that we're maturing just because we're going into this next phase of whatever he was describing. But yeah, I don't know real strong opinions on it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept. I think there is some truth to it. We've obviously kind of mulled over memes for a long time. It seems to be one of the most consensus things probably in the space that there is a huge amount of financial nihilism. And
Yeah, I mean, everyone just keeps saying like this is the thing of the cycle, which I totally get. Because it's the NFTs of the cycle. I think I saw like 6 posts over the weekend and say like, it's clear now that memes are the NFTs of this cycle. Every year you have a whatever. So like everyone's now kind of accepting that this is the trade of the cycle, and we've been talking about it for I guess probably months at this point, that this is the thing, and it's like either buckle down and do it or just accept that it's going to happen. Yeah, but like he wasn't passing judgment or anything there. He's just saying like as a reflection of the current times, and I don't think there's directionally anything you can do that's actionable on it.
yeah, maybe a broader point. One of the things that I've always thought is, whilst there is still conflict in the world, and there's still like a reason, quite a healthy, not a healthy, but like a strong amount of conflict in the world. It strikes me as obvious that the types of conflict that we've had before won't necessarily be the types of conflict that we've had in the future, and the expression of conflict will certainly be different. And so, even in physical contexts, the types of war that we fight will not be the same as in previous times. And in a similar way, the advent of the internet means that there's just different ways to get in fights with each other. And so I think this is like part of that movement. One aspect of a broader attempt to strike back or play a part.
I don't know. I think that's hilarious about it is that like so they're talking about it's class warfare, right? It's the the little guy standing up against the big guy and leaning into memes, but these numbers don't happen unless the big guy leans in, right? Like these numbers don't go up this high unless VCs start buying it. So is it that retail showed that they're now going to start participating only in memes because they're tired of getting dumped on by VCs? Therefore, VCs now have to chase them into meme land, and that is hilarious, which it is. And like that is the rebellion, anarchy of all of this stuff. I think that's probably like there obviously is something there. Whether that leads to like the pendulum swinging back the other way and like the VCs or the whatever the teams righting their wrongs and changing their habits, you are starting to see some tweets bubble to the surface of that saying like, yeah, everyone's tired of that high FTV, low float, whatever, and maybe it'll lead to more experimentation. Just, you know, we have two ICO platforms, Echo and Legion, have come out now to try to get people access to lower valuations of projects. Like maybe like it's swinging this way into memes for a little bit and it will come back because they have to play in that realm. But yeah,
I like it. I like that you mentioned Echo and the other platform. I do think there's
Legion. Yeah.
Legion. There's this movement towards the democratization of the private market, which has been capturing so much of the value for quite some time. There was a great article written by Kobe maybe a couple of months ago, kind of demonstrating how increasingly all of the value is getting captured in the private markets, leaving nothing left to the public market buyer, which has kind of worsened the situation when it came to these low float, high FTV tokens. There was just no value left for the public market buyer at the end. So interesting conversation. I really want to, we're going to get into the headlines today in just a bit. We've got the AI goat coin breakdown. We've got Bread breaking down the SUI valuation at a quarter of Sol's valuation, which is pretty interesting movement. Then we're going to have a bit of a conversation about majors. But before we get there, Bread, you're going to give us a little bit of a deep dive into what's going on with Ethereum L2s. As usual, there's a bit of a battle going on. There's a bit of an identity crisis in some way. Why don't you take over and give us a bit of a breakdown?
Yeah, sure. So this was inspired by a recent tweet by Togrel. And for those who don't know, Togrel is a researcher with Scroll. And the conversation revolves around are L2s Ethereum? And it's getting a lot of attention, but in research, like, and just to set the stage, it's are L2s Ethereum? For the actual discussion saying that they are not, which Torgrill, again, a researcher at Scroll, which is an L2 that just launched a token, said no, they are not. John Charbonneau, who's a big researcher, is agnostic to everything. He's kind of a counter thinker. Totally with Solana said, yeah, of course they're not, and that's totally fine. And then you had some of the prominent people from the other side of the argument, one of them being the inventor of ZK Sync, another L2 of Ethereum, you know, trying to analogize websites to the internet. Of course, L2s are. And Ryan Berkman, who's just an Ethereum bull poster, and he's trying to launch an app over there. And he was saying that it was intentionally reductive for narrative's sake to try to build a narrative for Ethereum. But anyways, that's the debate that's going on pretty heavily on the tech side of crypto Twitter these days. And the reason for that, when I now analyze this, was I believe it's a COPE discussion based out of sideways price action, where everyone is seeing that L2s are gaining usage, right? Code is being laid, they're being deployed, everything is doing this. All this stuff is supposed to be for Ethereum, right? It's all in the alignment, quote unquote, of Ethereum. You see that thrown on a lot, but the actual price action has been sideways, right? It's been halved since April. It's been down against both Sol and BTC, and it's a question of the actual roadmap or the direction of Ethereum. And if leaning into this roll-up centric roadmap was right, and when I do right in air quotes, saying like wondering if it's actually bringing value to the network, which is what everyone wants, right? Because everyone has the token, they want the bag to go up, and they want to find the best path for that, but they don't know how to do it. So they're kind of talking past each other a little bit with that, like, technically are L2s Ethereum? No, they're not. They're totally separate blockchains. They exist elsewhere. Culturally, though, they are extensions of Ethereum, right? You use ETH for money, like it propagates alignment and trying to build towards the network effects of Ethereum, the EVM, all those things. So that's the big discussion today. Obviously, there is no answer, and I think it also ultimately is side effect of sideways price action for as long as it's been.
Very interesting stuff. So do you think that in summary, the reason why that there's this bigger debate about L2s at the moment, in your opinion, is because price action is simply going sideways? This would be abstracted away if the price was going up more. Even in that
because
case,
everyone is everyone's putting a bunch of work into Ethereum, quote unquote, but all that work's going directly to technically these L2s. Is that adding value to Ethereum, the asset that everyone has and everyone's trying to improve on, but the price isn't doing anything, and they're getting frustrated by that, right? We've done all this work and yet price is down. Why is price down even though we've done all this thing for Ethereum, quote unquote?
Does this relate back to one of your posts you shared yesterday though, where ultimately, in your opinion, you think this is a net good for Ethereum in the long run? It's just in order to go up and to the right, there's going to be some bumps in the road as for a period of time, these L2s will accrue some of the value and maybe maybe siphon off some of the value which would have traditionally gone to ETH. Is that your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, L2s are going to exist everywhere. Like all these things are going to interoperate. I think the problem is that everyone has gone from Ethereum to these L2s prematurely because it's been an explicit roadmap item that is the destination. And because it's been the destination, just like Uniswap, I retweeted Hayden Adams, who's the founder of Uniswap, just launched Unichain, right? In his post, kind of refuting everyone pushing back, that saying, why is Uniswap leaving? He says, the L1 cannot scale. We cannot stay on the L1. The L1 is not the thing. So he leaves, right? He's been planning to leave for a very long time because that's the thing. However, we don't have enough people in this ecosystem to support Ethereum and 10,000 layer twos. So all the people that would maybe fill up Ethereum in like 4 or 5 L2s is now spread out across 75 L2s prematurely, right? We don't have the inbound to balance it.
This is not a criticism of anyone spinning out, because I think ultimately people will do what's in their kind of interest, their profitable interest. But do you think how much of this do you think is ultimately down to people seeing the economics of how some of the leaders on L2s are operating, like Arbitrum and Base, seeing how much profit they're able to attract, and just thinking, well, why would we not want to capture more of that value? Like, is that a significant thing? Is that the main thing? What's your thought there?
Yeah, in the tech circles, that's been a long discussion topic, right? Everyone is incentivized to capture as much of the value that they generate, right? So if you're an application, you start off as an application on L1, then you're leaking some to any MEV, you're leaking some to some fees to network fees, all these things, right? So ultimately, every one of these things, even wallets, right? Out wallets maintain the network for a lot of people. They're going to verticalize, right? They're going to try to obtain more and more of the stack. And we actually talked about this with Pump Fund a long time ago, right? Pump Fund, it's got the very start of the stack. There's more things that are coming. Like they want to gain, like they lose people at some point, right? Whenever coins are launched, and it's part of like to Telegram because they go and do a Telegram chat elsewhere. So what does Pump Fund do? They add a chat inside their actual application. So like these very strong products are always going to want to try to maintain their users longer, better, fuller, and as like all the value they generate as much as they can. So it's a natural progression of all this stuff. It's just people are kind of jumping to this conclusion probably faster than we can support it.
Interesting. I've actually had a bunch of conversations with founders recently as well, where in this space, look, things change fast, things pivot quickly. Like sometimes you need to add more to your roadmap than you had expected. I think a lot of people are looking to add new things. They even if they're dominating one particular domain, they start to look elsewhere and like, well, how, like what direction is the puck moving? How do we capture that? I think that's pretty obvious at the moment. Brett, that is a fantastic breakdown. Really appreciate that. We're going to be doing more bread breakdowns. Don't know how to brand those yet. Maybe breadcrumbs corner, something like that. Look, we've got all the headlines still to get into. We've got the goat coin. We've got Sui at a quarter of Sol's valuation, and we've got some general major conversation on the majors. Sam, let's go to the this is what it says in the call sheet, the AI goat coin. What on earth has been happening here? Why is it moving? What's the history? I think it's a pretty interesting story. Why don't you explain?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of moving parts here that I probably want to touch on. And I think you may have seen back in July, maybe late June, something called Truth Terminal came to market on Twitter. Now that is that's linked to Goatcoin. I'll get to that shortly. But Goatcoin, for those that don't know, it's derived from this meme called Goatsy, which if you remember those online chat rooms, you'd effectively turn around as the camera will come to you, and you bend over and spread your cheeks, and that's effectively what it is. So in terms of like meme origin, that is where it comes from. It's called, so I think, so Truth Terminal is effectively an AI generated bot that's on Twitter. It's kind of learned that schizo shit posting way of kind of writing. So if you scroll down its feed, you'll literally just see a load of, it's kind of become less nonsense, and it's kind of become a little bit more focused, and it's getting a lot of engagement. If you look at the engagement back in like July, even September, you get like a couple of likes and barely any impressions. And now it's obviously come to market because it's kind of leaning into this cultural meme phenomenon with this GOAT token. Now the backstory is, I think back on the 10th of July, Mark Andreessen, so one of the founders of A16Z, funded a grant of 50K on Bitcoin for this AI bot to do whatever he wanted to do with it. And he basically came back and said, look, I'm going to launch a meme coin, and I'm going to set up a Discord. I'm going to pay people to help me.
The bot said this, right?
Literally said on Twitter. So that's literally what he said he was going to do with the money. It's hard to actually trace those funds, so I'm assuming that's what's actually happened. But a third party actually launched this GOAT coin via Pump Fund. I can't track the funds from Bitcoin to Sol, so I can't see how much exposure this particular AI bot has to it, or whether he doesn't have any exposure at all, but just helped with the marketing side of things. So that's the only thing that I've requested the founder, so of that Truth Terminals, who's Andy A. Rye, just to give a bit more information about the Sol wallet, so I can attract that. But ultimately, this token is being pushed on the timeline as if this AI bot is basically a KOL. Talking about it, and it posts probably about 30 times a day, of which probably 10% are, or 15% are probably to this GOATs token. So it's just interesting to watch, and I think it's kind of an experiment into how AI is effectively exploring cultural phenomenon. Which, if you look at recently, obviously, Murad has kind of pushed this whole meme thesis of cults and tokens, and this kind of thing has launched probably, it's been around for a couple of months now, but it's kind of leaning into that more, and it's kind of come to the surface in light of this like attention on memes. And something that I find interesting is the amount of funding that venture capital has actually put into AI in the past in 2024 alone is like 0.4 billion. So 374 million has gone into AI crypto related products. So this 50K grant, I think, is just going to be the beginning. So where I see this going is you're going to have these AI trading bots, or like KOLs, or these kind of things probably becoming a lot more prevalent across the market. And it'd be interesting to see how this ties into memes, and whether it can actually kind of replicate what a human can do as well. So it's an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I've just got the video of Mark Andreessen sharing a little bit more of the history. So I'm just going to play that for the people who are listening in and watching in. Let me just find the correct. How do we do this? Chrome tab.
Oh, you figured that out, Sammy. So talk to me. Does the bot talk about going? Because it was originally in Andreessen's thing, he's going to talk about, he sent it to a Bitcoin address, right? But he deployed the token elsewhere. Was there logic to that from the bot?
I think it just went. So it didn't actually. I haven't seen the tweets that it kind of the rationale behind where it decided to launch, but I'm assuming that it's just gone with, okay, well, Pump Fun is the main place on Solana. Let's just launch the token on Solana and try and push it through that way. Because I don't know, like launching a meme on Bitcoin, I just don't think that would make sense at this point in time.
I bring it up very specifically because within the last week, I've had two maxis of both Bitcoin and Ethereum say all of the AI agents are going to use Bitcoin and Ethereum, specifically, each one said each one, specifically because this is the maximally decentralized, super censorship resistant, World War III uptime fucking thing. Of course, the AI agents are going to use that. And we have literally one and only one AI agent that's out here deploying shit, and he fucking pump funded. I think that is hilarious.
Well, I think so basically, a bit of background about where it gets its information from. It's not just Twitter, it's Reddit, it's 4chan. So it uses the information on the timeline, and everyone's talking about memes on Sol. So to me, it makes sense that it would go down that route. Now, that's not necessarily that's always going to be the case. I mean, runes are doing relatively well, like pups are pumped, and a bunch of other coins are doing well on Bitcoin. And that friction to actually use those protocols will probably improve or reduce, sorry. But I just think at this point in time, based on the information it's seeing on the timeline, that kind of logically makes sense as to why it chose that direction to go.
History. I'm not convinced.
Right.
Positive.
Here we go. We've got the audio and video here. Let's see what Andreessen had to say.
I just funded the first bot over the internet with just completely discretionary funds. So there's this guy in New Zealand who's incredibly bright, who has a bot. And it's clearly. I mean, he's deliberately telling you it's a bot. It's not fake. It's a real. It's labeled as a bot, and it's the Twitter handle is called Truth Terminal. And it's a custom version of the Llama model trained on this guy's own, I think, corpus of like personal, documents, plus basically 4chan and Reddit and Twitter. And like, it is just absolutely extraordinary, the level of personality that this thing has. And so basically it decided it needed to raise money. And so I asked, and you can talk to it on Twitter, and I asked it basically like, well, what would you do with the funding? And it basically like laid out like this entire business plan for what it wanted to do. And it started with, basically like, okay, I need a server upgrade because I don't have the capacity. And then, my human, owner, or vice versa, my human subject, he needs a stipend because he's been doing this in his spare time. And then it's like, and then my goal, I want to launch a meme coin. Right. Right. And so it like came up with this whole thing. And so I was like, great, do you have a Bitcoin wallet? And it said, well, let me check. And so it asked its creator for a Bitcoin wallet. And so its creator gave it a Bitcoin wallet. And so I wired it $50,000 worth of Bitcoin and as a grant, and said, go crazy. And so now it's like this, internet, like, again, you can talk to it. Like you can.
That's crazy. That's pretty wild, right? Okay. So in terms of the price action itself though, Sam, what's been happening?
So GOAT's gone pretty parabolic. It's up over 110 million. I think I can try and pass you the chart so you can.
I've got it.
You got it.
I've got it. Okay. So this was how long? Say, if we spread it out a little bit. Okay. So we went completely insane in the last 24 hours or so. Or last few days.
I mean, it's probably done a 15x in the past 2 days.
As you say, that Andreessen commentary and stuff, I think that happened a while ago. So it's just taken a bit of time for people to decide that they really, really wanted to buy into this. So fascinating story. Any final reflections, Sam, on this, either the particular coin itself or just like the AI chatbot thing?
I actually really like, so it's got like a full-on white paper, which for a meme coin doesn't really have. So I had a quick flick through that, and it just kind of alluded to a few points beyond, like it basically is trying to build like a whole thesis around almost like a cult or religion around this GOAT token, which is kind of, to have that wording behind it, it just seems a little bit more comprehensive than your average meme on Sol. So yeah, I bought some basically. I just started digging into it, and that call sheet is now a call to action. I ended up buying some. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Fair enough. Thanks very much for the breakdown. That's super helpful, getting into some of the history behind it as well. Nice to have a meme coin with a bit of history behind it, a little bit of a story, a little bit of an interesting story, rather than just something that's run out and it's a funny word or something. So enjoyed that. Brad, let's get into the next headline. Sui has been completely pumping the last few weeks, actually, as it's part of like an L1 trade. It's now at a quarter of Sol's valuation. What are your thoughts here on Sui? And do you think this L1 trade is still alive? I thought people were gonna ditch all of this stuff for memes. What's going on here?
All right. So disclaimer, I'm not a trader. I'm not good at trading. What I can tell you guys though is metrics. I'm good at metrics. I can analyze this shit. So people are seeing Sui now and saying, okay, is this Solana of last cycle, whatever is going to pump? No one fucking knows, right? Yes, it's caught a narrative. There's a lot of VCs pumping it. It's on the KOLs. There's people making money, whatever. So yes, but if we go by the numbers, right now, Sui is 1/4 of the price of Solana. And then if we take, I just grabbed 5 different metrics that I think are important for other people to look at. So if it's 1/4 of the FDV of Solana, it is 1/10 the size in stables. It is 1/9 the size in DEX volume. It is 1/6 the size in TVL and is 1/4 the size in total applications protocols that are deployed to the application or deployed to the chain. So that is to tell me that the price itself of the token is higher than basically every other metric that would show this thing has adoption, life, usage, whatever. So that tells me that the market right now, on a purely data level, again, this is, you know, not super deep, but key metrics that I think are important for usage, is overvaluing what is currently going on in Sol. So there's probably some future valuation being priced into that stuff. And of course, it can pump if this is the thing that catches a rotation. Any of that stuff can happen. We're trading fucking, you know, dog coins, frog coins, whatever these days. So like, grain of salt with all this stuff. But people are saying that and saying like, is this thing the next trade? Like it can probably run a little bit, but based on actual current usage, you're not going to do this stuff on fundamentals. You would not buy this thing right now on fundamentals. What it does tell me though is if it's catching this bid and if it is going to do a Solana rotation similar to what happened last time. Remember, last time Solana had some adoption, but it was actually mostly led because like it takes time to actually build out an ecosystem, to get apps, to get adoption, to get users, to get community, all that stuff. Last time, what happened with Solana is that the community came out really strong because you had FTX, you had Sam Bankman-Fried, you had all these, like a wonderkin at the time. You have to remember what he looked like. You had all these people very specifically, FTX, very pointedly building and pointing to Solana as the next thing, the killer, whatever. So that got a lot of narrative attention and led to a lot of price appreciation. And then this time, now it actually has adoption. It's actually getting used, right? You're having, you know, $1.3 billion in volume just yesterday. That's crazy, right? Like it's crushing. So that's what's leading to price appreciation now, after it went down to $8 over the course of the bear market. So looking at this now, I think it's overvalued. If you're strictly comparing it to Solana and saying, which of those two things would I buy? Which one is the safer play? And then it just tells me I want to keep this thing on my radar because it is catching a little bit of a narrative. It does have some novel tech. We talked about Move last time I was on, saying like that's actually language VM developed by Facebook. A lot of people think it's one of the better smart contract languages that are created specifically for blockchain usage, which again, remember EVM was not. And Rust is just a general C, I believe it is, C++ line. Anyways, so it's notable to me, but I think it's overvalued at current prices. I wouldn't be buying into it as someone who's doing purely on fundamentals.
Fair enough. I've definitely seen some smart people kind of come to that same conclusion. An interesting post by Light Crypto. And if you're unfamiliar, Light was around in the last cycle, maybe even much longer. I wasn't familiar before then. Kind of posts thoughtful stuff on more crypto specific things. And he shared this post kind of articulating similar argument to what Brett just said, but in addition, sharing that something that I think few know, insiders, including what is likely a large foundation wallet, obviously we can't confirm that, but this is his opinion, have sold $400 million in tokens throughout this run-up, had already begun selling material amounts at much lower prices and are even accelerating their selling at these more elevated levels. It does not bring comfort that the people building this ecosystem, the people who arguably know this token's value best, are unloading hundreds of millions of dollars. I would maybe stop short of saying that definitively, especially if they themselves, the person who's written this post, says it's likely a large foundation wallet, if they can't say that for sure. But clearly identified a lot of selling as part of this run-up. So that's interesting to note. Just wanted to bring you aware of that. Maybe a secondary point, and I think this is one that people either find funny or interesting because they sound very similar. Obviously, you have Say and you have Sui, and there's this side-by-side chart which shows Sui's, sorry, am I getting it confused? Sui's price action compared with Say's price action, suggesting that Say will follow Sui because...
In fairness, if you're a narrative trader, they're very close to each other, not only in name, but actually in practicalities, right? The both of them are like the parallel EVM, or not, like the parallel EVM is Say, Sui's Move, obviously, but like the parallel fast high throughput chain. They caught a bit at the same time this last cycle, right? So narratively they are in the same bucket. And if you're like, oh, I just missed Sui, I need to get the catch up trade, which would be Say, because it is adjacent, parallel, whatever. People may start rotating.
How much do you think they're adjacent, Brad, because the name's very similar?
Incredibly.
I just think in this space, the fact it's like, well, the names are similar, so it's probably going to have the same price action, aren't they? Like,
So I always think about it after the fact because it always happens. It's whenever there's like the splash effect of capital rotations into something that's kind of like a FOMO inducing thing where like you always see, or not always, but I constantly feel like I see these moments where like this ticker pumped because everyone bought the wrong thing and it was just like adjacent to the thing that was the actual thing that was pumping. And then like, yeah, just splash damage ended up like jumping it, 200% overnight. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, interesting stuff. That is only possible in crypto, isn't it? Really thoroughly enjoy that. Okay, we've got one final headline to talk about today, and then, but before we do that, let's get into the Web3 Roundup to get you up to speed with everything else that's happened in the space. Some really interesting bits of news coming out from around the space as well. First one is this: Paradigm funds Ithaca with $20 million to build sustainable open source development for the good of crypto. You might have seen some funny memes around that over the weekend where it's like Paradigm funding Paradigm because it's one of the general partners at Paradigm who is receiving funding from Paradigm in order to do this. So $20 million, pretty interesting there. Next, World Liberty Finance by Trump to launch token sale tomorrow. It feels like everyone's been so distracted on memes the last few days. That is coming tomorrow. I suspect that you still have a chance to KYC for that if you want to be involved. There's also a Spaces today, Monday, October the 14th at 8 a.m. EST for an exclusive Spaces to learn more. That would be interesting to see how that plays out. Monochrome Asset Management to launch Australia's first ETH ETF today. That is good news. And $2 billion TVL synthetic dollar Athena proposes to add Sol as a backing asset for USDE. Athena continuing to kind of build out its synthetic dollar. On some other news, Pudgy Penguins are down 5% to 8.9 ETH, whilst Pudgy Puppets are up 28.5% to 0.2 ETH. Meme NFTs is doing very well. Movement Labs announces $20 million of investment into Move Builders. That's what Brad was just talking about just a moment ago with Movement Labs. And then finally, Base flips Arbitrum as the largest ETH L2 by TVL. Arbitrum's been by far and away the biggest one for quite some time. And finally flipped by Base. Maybe that was a bit of an inevitability given Coinbase's power and prowess in kind of the more corporate market. But yeah, building out Base has been pretty productive for them so far, very profitable too. So that is very interesting to note. Final headline for today, or final discussion for today, was more just a general conversation on where we are as we're leading in towards the end of the year, as we are leading into the beginning of election season. And we've been in it for a while, but it's coming up in around a month or so now. Just general thoughts. But I like to do this at the start of a week, especially when lots of stuff's been happening over the last few days, just to check in with where we are. Sam, what's your kind of positioning at the moment? How are you thinking about how things will move forward as we move in, maybe to the election first and then post-election to the end of the year?
I do think crypto will probably rise into the election. I think there will be a bit of a sell the news event after, and then, but I do think sort of medium term, we do go up and to the right. I think the whole structural changes. I don't think that's going away with the ETFs. Institutions are interested to get further exposure down that risk curve, and maybe potentially memes at some point. And I think there is that market maturation that's happening with memes being one segment. But I do think these other segments are going to have their heyday as well. So I'm kind of looking at the other areas, and we touched on L1s, L2s, which I think just looking at the venture capital and where that's going, I've kind of segmented that a little bit and started to look at different areas. So infrastructure is obviously a big one. L1, AI, L2, liquid staking's massive kind of this year compared to last year. But there are other ones, and we touched on some of the raises in the recent Web3 Roundup with decentralized protocols. So Ithaca, and that kind of stuff's received about 0.2 billion since the start of the year, so the first 9 months. So there's a lot of capital that's been plowed into different things that compared to the previous year, and that's kind of where I'm kind of funneling my attention, because I think give it sort of 6 months, some of these protocols that are being funded are going to start coming to market. So I kind of want to start front running that.
Interesting. That's one of the big conversations we've had as a company, which is like, look, there are so many, and other media companies have done similar. I think there are so many companies or protocols who are coming to market. And when we say coming to market, we mean there is a token coming relatively soon, whether that's in the next few months or in the next 6 months or whatever, which means this should be, and the reason why I talk about 2 bull runs, when I talk about like our trajectory and as a creator, as a trader, investor, whatever, there's 2 bull runs that are going to happen. One is the crypto bull run itself, which makes people happy because the assets that they hold go up in price, and that's fun for everyone. The second bull run is happening in the media. The numbers go up, but not only do numbers go up as the price goes up, which is always an indicator, that always happens, but even more so, the number of teams who are coming to market who can basically offer tokens to to access part of their treasury, part of their allocation, is going to go through the roof in the next 3 to 6 months, which gives every single creator, whether they run a show, whether they operate individually or with a group of people, the opportunity to get a slice of a particular team's tokens. And I don't mean that in a mercenary way. Increasingly, the conversations we've had with teams have been like, look, we actually want to work with you over a long period of time, if that is actually true, of course. Like, we want to find the best people possible, people that we actually want to back. And look, if we would like to take a slice of token allocations, it's like, look, let's actually help you. Across the 4 of us on the show, we have like quite diverse skill sets, both when it comes to the media, when it comes to product. So there's just this huge opportunity to pick some decent teams, and for teams, conversely, to pick decent media partners to partner up with for the next 6 months and try to knock it out the park. Let's try and hit a home run. I've been telling people over and over again, this is the time. This is the time to hit your home runs, and you can hit more than one, which I think is the goal, right? I've described ourselves as like a sports company. In a sports team, you can have an NFT lending partner, you can have a banking partner, you can have a airline partner flying all around the world to all these conferences. Bread is still flying around all of Asia. Why do we not have an airline partner so Bread can actually get into the country that he's trying to get into? Two bull markets, crypto bull market, media bull market. Want to participate in both. Bread, got a couple minutes left for today's show. How are you seeing things towards the end of the year? Anything you're focusing on? Anything that everyone else should be focusing on?
Yeah, for me, it's also just an infrastructure. I'm trying to predict the general value accrual process, or where value accrues and all this stuff, so I can position myself in majors, right? Like determining where things are gonna play out over the next few months, right? Months and years, and that's again in the majors, and that's mostly in blockchain architecture. I'm not gonna do the memes, right? Like that's just not me. I've committed to that. It's not entertaining to me. It doesn't give me energy, and therefore I'm not going to give it energy. So I'm going to focus on the stuff that I like. It's infrastructure, see where value accrues, whether it's on Ethereum or an L2 or Solana or Sui, Nisha, some other launches. Stick to the farming and live there.
I like it. If you've been following our content in general, we've done pretty well just allocating to strong protocols. Again, that's maybe a third opportunity if we want to go through all the other opportunities. Just picking quality protocols, quality teams that that something will come, that who are building towards a token, providing liquidity, doing, participating, using their products. All these tokens are coming to market, guys, in the next 3, 6, 12 months. So that means tokens.
What was the grand total you got for modern market in that wallet? What are you up to now?
$136,000. That's not just modern market. That's myself as well. But interestingly, we talk about there being a bull market. There's from the media side, the EigenLayer creator allocation ended up being, for modern market got 2,000 Eigen, and personally I got 4,000 Eigen. So that was $24,000 last week because we just wrote some tweets about EigenLayer. I looked back and I saw the tweet that I wrote on EigenLayer. I did like how you've been doing these what the fuck is whatever, Bread. You've been doing those kind of deep dive posts. I had done one something like that on EigenLayer a while back, and maybe a couple of other posts, and that got 4,000 Eigen, which is like, again, huge opportunity for people who are competent, motivated educators or writers or content creators, I think a lot of these teams might look at that moving forward as well. So that is great to see. Very, very great. Good to see. We'll keep an eye on all of those opportunities as always and bring them to you as we see them. But that is the end of today's show. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to Brad and Sam for being up with us as always. And thank you everyone else for being with us. We are live on X. We're live on YouTube every single day at 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. We will see you again tomorrow. Take care. Have a wonderful day. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.